there's a few things. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. First, I'd like to thank Playmass Montreal for hosting this very important event to recognize International Women's Day and Month. I think that that's one of the important features that we often forget. We have a day that we recognize, which will be on March 8th, but this is International Women's Month. And quite frankly, I believe that we need to have a month.
Yes.
If you had my way, we'd have a year.
Yes.
If I had my way, we'd have a decade. If I had my year, we'd have all time, which I think ladies, we've done that. I think what we're seeing that's changing in our societies is the understanding and recognition that our voices and our contributions, which have gone mostly unseen and hidden and tucked away in history, are now coming to the forefront. It's important to know that we stand on shoulders of others. And today for me is a representation of that. Look around you, we have about 4 generations of women in this room. That's incredible. The ability for Playmass Montreal to bring together an intergenerational afternoon is important because this is where we tell our stories. Women are incredible storytellers. We are the carriers of our history, our culture, and our identities. So thank you, and please give a round of applause to Playmass Montreal for ensuring that these types of events continue to happen in our community. I mentioned to you before that it takes a community to raise a child. At the end of my keynote, I'll talk a little bit about how this community has grown me. But today is about women in politics. And I think we have to unpack what we mean when we say politics. There's formal politics, of course, but then there's the politics of life and community. I want to start there. It's very important to recognize that most of the women in this room play a political role in the circles of which they take part. You are leaders in your own context, whether it's at your church, in a community group, even at home. Women are the glue that keep our communities together. And the politics that we manage in that regard is absolutely transferable. I think that's what's amazing about women. Everything that we do in our natural being can be converted into energy, can be converted into something that is more structured, such as politics. If you ask me, it's an easy jump for women to go into politics, quite frankly. I have 3 children. I'm managing 3 political parties at my home. They're all in opposition of each other. They very rarely agree. And we nurture that. And really, when you think about the history of women in politics, we'll just start with our country. When you think about the Honorable Jean Augustine, who we are honoring today, when you think about the Honorable Marlene Jennings, when you think about MPP Zanina Akande, the glass ceilings that they shattered and the roads that they paved made it so that today we can stand here and honor Dominique Anglade, the first Black woman to lead a Quebec provincial party. First woman and Black woman. We always have to forget that. For us to be able to stand here and say that we have a Black woman who is the mayor of a borough, the largest borough. People forget to say that. Largest borough in Montreal. That's why we can stand and make it possible to honor Gracia. These women, if you've ever met them and had the fortune of sitting with them, I've been privileged to have meetings with all of them. If you look at the common thread of these women, is that before their entry into politics, they were all actively involved in community. They all played key roles in ensuring that their community was well taken care of. They fought injustices, not only for their own community, but for others. I think those are the building blocks of the important women in our community that go into politics. And we have to continue to nurture that in the next generation. If we factor in our contributions as women in politics, we could very well say that we are not at the beginning. We're well on our road to seeing more women become mayors, more women to lead political parties. Hell, we're on our way to seeing a female prime minister. I haven't met her yet, but she's here somewhere. Now let's talk a little bit about what we have to do to make sure that she takes that seat. I'm going to share a personal story now. So once upon a time, I ran for city councilor of Cotonou and MDG. And it was my first time attempting politics, and that would mean I would need my community to support. So it's interesting that we're here today drinking tea, because when I went to Gemma and I said, Gemma, I think I'm going to go into politics. And she said, really? Let's do it. She said, let's do it. I thought that was an interesting answer. She said, I know what I'm going to do for you. You're going to need two things, volunteers and money. And she organized at her home a tea party where she invited different women to support me on my journey of becoming a city councilor. It takes community to make sure that we will see the people that we need in positions of power to represent our needs. So as a community, we have to make sure that we're willing to volunteer our time. We have to make sure we're willing to reach into our pockets and give to campaigns. We have to go and knock door to door with these women. Because here's the return on investment on that. When you have women at the helm of political processes and political decisions, you have a broader spectrum of results. When the interest rate and inflation goes up, a woman would tend to look at that more than just being a financial impediment. She'll look at, how are my seniors going to afford their groceries? How are kids faring through now perhaps the hard decisions their parents have to make in terms of the activities that they participate in? Women have a lens that allowed for politics to be broader and more inclusive. That's the nurturing element of who we are. So we have to make sure that we pour into young women to take these positions of power, to continue the legacy that we've seen in the fantastic women that I mentioned before. I'd like to close my remarks with something very simple. If we want to see change, invest in women. I'm sorry, I thought that was going to get a round of applause. I don't know. I wasn't sure if y'all agreed now. I got scared there for a minute. Take two. If we want to see change, invest in women. You know how I know? Can I tell you how I know? I have two wonderful parents. My father and my mother. I always tell people, I look like him, but I think like her. Because my mother, I think, was the first person who saw in me that giving was what I was designed to do. Where the traditional, go into work at a bank or go and, become a doctor or become a lawyer. I think she knew innately, this kid, she's gonna do something with giving and being a part of her community. And I got to see her in her own actions do that, and I promise you, that's what made me decide that this could even be a career and an option. So because of that woman, I'm a young Black woman from Montreal who leads a national organization that funds Black businesses across the country. That is not about the position, that's about the power to empower others. Yes. So I wasn't sure why Gemma asked me to give the keynote address today, because we had actual female politicians here. But what I can say is I'm glad to have the microphone, so I can say thank you for being a part of the political process, so that I can be a part of the political framing of my community. Thank you. Have a great afternoon.